I never anticipated commencing anew at 33 years ago. My life was ideal. At least that was the impression I had with Mike present. He epitomized everything I desired. Seeking an exceptional physician by day and a gifted individual. Guitarist by night and a benevolent spirit. You might ever encounter, we had been together for 5 years, and I genuinely believed we would. Mike cherished his desire to age together. The motorcycle about which I used to mock him. Engaging as a weekend warrior in trading his physician's coat for leather jackets each. He seized the opportunity which shaped his identity. He exemplified an ideal equilibrium of the responsibility and freedom of that morning. He was like any other. He bid me farewell with a kiss, seized his helmet and departed for a brief excursion prior to his hospital shift. Failed to arrive at work due to a vehicle running a red light. Illuminated, and at that instant, my entire existence collapsed during the initial months following the details of the accident remain unclear. I immersed myself in the situation, engaging in additional programming tasks, projects solely to engage my intellect. Engaged my sister Sarah, notwithstanding her typical critical disposition, in fact, assisted me over the opening weeks. She would bring her sons, Tommy and Jake, over to my residence, and their presence in some manner rendered circumstances somewhat more tolerable for 3. I resided in this peculiar limbo for years. Merely dating, not genuinely living. My current programming position occupied my time. I earned sufficient income to provide assistance. Sarah has been managing her bills, rearing the boys independently following her. His former bandmates visited following his divorce last week. Occasionally, we convene, reminisce and reflect on joyful experiences. There were moments when Dave, their lead vocalist, stood out. Mike's vintage guitar evokes memories of his playing. Music has consistently been regarded as a remedy for the Dave inquired while strumming a few chords. It was at that moment, upon hearing the chords, that I realized I needed to execute a permanent action. It is significant to commemorate Mike's memory. Not solely for him, but for myself as well. A method to perpetually carry him with me, simultaneously signifying the commencement of my adventure. I have never been inclined towards. I previously had a different perspective about tattoos. Somewhat conservative about bodily matters. Alterations, yet the concept of permanently inscribing Mick onto my skin. Individual with a guitar slung over his shoulder experienced. Indeed, it seemed to be the ideal homage to the individual who imparted the lesson that existence was intended to be embraced audaciously. The tattoo. The parlor deviated significantly from I had always envisioned a sinister and dubious scenario. Possession adorned with neon signage and dubious characteristics. Hygiene, yet, this resembled more of the high-end art studio created by the artist Anna. Made me feel entirely at ease as she gazed. In the reference photographs I have provided, Mike played his guitar for hours afterward. Was unable to cease gazing at my arm. The detail in Mike's profile was remarkable. Usual posture with the guitar draped. A little smile over his shoulder. He consistently had pain while playing. Quite challenging, yet it was entirely worthwhile. 2 weeks elapsed, and the tattoo recovered. Thus, I resolved it was time to visit Sarah and the children. It was a standard Saturday afternoon when I arrived. To Sarah's residence, I donned a light garment, long-sleeved jacket. Upon knocking, I heard the sleeves. Tommy and Jake raced down the. Tommy nearly tackled Anasha on the stairs. He still had not embraced me at 12. Beyond his fervor for family attends. Jake attempting to preserve his composure. The demeanor of the 15-year-old was reserved. He could not conceal his smile, indeed. Sarah emerged behind them, appearing truly delighted to encounter me at an opportune moment. I just prepared lunch, the house was warm. I removed my jacket without believing I was adorned in my preferred attire. Short-sleeve t-shirt beneath and suddenly, the room fell silent. Momentarily silent before to Tommy's exuberance. A shout disrupted the silence. It is impossible that Uncle Mike arrived hastily to inspect my arm, which is quite impressive. Jake possesses his guitar and all related items. Jake approached his teenage companion. Retain. An exceptionally impressive firearm. Tasha, it resembles, precisely. When Sarah's voice interrupted him. Through the boy's exhilaration like frost. Tasha, what were you contemplating? That is simply unattractive. I cannot fathom that you would engage in such an action. I made a permanent decision without consulting anyone. I felt my face redden, yet I maintained my composure. Calm down, Sarah, I did not intend to seek your advice. It is my body, and I will determine what occurs with it. The gaze she bestowed upon me had frozen hell over, however, she did not articulate it. We proceeded to have lunch, while the boys continued to pose inquiries about the tattoo and there. Sarah reminisced about her cherished times with Mike. Their emanating disapproval. Whenever I met her gaze, she was gazing at my arm as though it had offended me personally. I attempted to maintain the casual dialogue informing the lads regarding Mike's initial calamitous endeavor at instructing me in guitar and how he would ultimately conceded and stated that I ought to. They mocked her for adhering to coding, yet Sarah persisted. Merely maneuvered her food around the dish. I was approximately 8 years old when my mother's phone rang. The name illuminated on the screen, and I comprehended. Sarah needed to promptly ascertain what was forthcoming. I texted her immediately after I had taken off. My mother, Tasha, had a voice reminiscent of Jack's. Unique blend of disillusionment and judgment she refined over the years. Your sister just informed me about what transpired. You have accomplished. I must express my disapproval. What were you contemplating? I took a. Calm down, Mom. I am 30 years old, and I do not require your authorization for choices regarding. She diminished my own body. The snorting sound she consistently produces while she is rather irritated subsequently without an alternative term she suspended. Subsequent weeks following the tattoo disclosure passed rapidly in a haze of code and I was overseeing a significant project with impending deadlines. Seeking a new client, which resulted in an interminable hours spent in front of my PC at home, was nearly a relief to possess a justification. You should refrain from visiting Sarah and co-returning further matters. Drama around my tattoo, but ultimately the project attained a steady juncture, and I could no longer evade familial responsibilities. I proceeded to Sarah's, taking longer than usual residence on Saturday afternoon. As soon as she opened the door, I realized something was amiss. Her expression conveyed that. The pinched expression she assumes when she is going to initiate a dispute between Tommy and Jake. The living area while engaging in video games. Upon my entrance, people rose to welcome me. But Sarah interrupted them. She expressed enthusiasm as the boys ascended the stairs. The tone, which allowed no opportunity for I require a real discussion. Dialogue with your aunt. Exchanged anxious glances, concerning my typical children. Anticipate when they are aware that something is imminent. Descend and laboriously walked. Resonated throughout the abruptly quiet residence. I inquired sincerely about the situation. Perplexed, Sarah folded her arms and stared at me intently. Are you aware of what Tommy did? Inquired of me yesterday whether he could acquire a tattoo when reaching 16. At 16, Jake interjected, stating that he would. I have been researching tattoo artists on anything, Sarah, they are merely children, they are unable to comprehend Tattoos administered without parental approval. I attempted to engage her in rational discourse, and when they are adults, they will make their own decisions. Decisions regarding their bodies similarly to me. Sarah's voice influenced Rose's decisions. An octave that remained unspoken. Tattoos prior to your arrival with that. The object on your arm is completely. It is your responsibility. I inhaled deeply. Let us proceed. Sarah's tattoos are ubiquitous in contemporary society. 50% of the individuals at the grocery store possess them. The boys likely observe numerous tattooed individuals. Individuals cannot be present at school daily. Hold me accountable for their existence. Interested, do not attempt to rationalize this. Sarah was virtually trembling now. You are unaware of what you have. Initially, they will desire tattoos. What will they do next? Start smoking. Alteration of its appealing aesthetics, they will subsequently commence consuming alcohol, and before you realize it, they will engaging in. I stood in Sarah's living room. The room felt as though I had entered a alternative scenario in which acquiring a tattoo was tantamount to corruption. Minors, Sarah, this is absurd, I stated, endeavoring to maintain a consistent tone. I have never smoked a cigarette in my life. Visit the gym 4 times a week. The beverage I consume is kombucha, as you are aware. Sarah's facial expression is inconsequential. Currently, the reality is that you have transformed. I have been contemplating this extensively. Straightened her posture as she typically does. Indicates that she is on the verge of articulating a statement. She believes it enhances her auditory perception. I do not wish for you to come. I no longer wish for you to be in my residence. You exert a negative impact. I genuinely found it amusing when I saw my guys. Either that or weep poorly. Effect due to a tattoo that Sarah has. Do you not hear yourself at this moment? She snapped, mock me. I am serious, I desire. I want you to depart, and I do not wish for you to return. This is outrageous. I exclaimed, seizing my purse. You are exaggerating the situation. Contact me when you are aware of Emily Hill. You have arrived at your. As I exited her residence, Day felt as though I were in a peculiar state of an unusual dream in which I possessed a simple tattoo. Beautiful artwork commemorating Mike. Transformed into this family-destroying drama. At home, I endeavored to comprehend what had transpired. Sarah had consistently been the more conventional one between us, however, this. Her reaction appeared excessive, even by her standards. I anticipated she would eventually compose herself. Ultimately, she had to correct her course, so I persisted. Transmitting her the monthly utility funds. As I consistently did, following all her. The financial situation must not deteriorate. Merely due to her absurd behavior. About my tattoo, yet as days progressed into weeks. Another issue began to trouble me as well. Exceeding Sarah's. Tommy and Jake had not arrived at the reaction. There has been no communication from them whatsoever, no SMS, no calls. They typically sent me frivolous memes. Males who previously engaged in FaceTime communication with me. Bi-weekly. I attempted to text them casually, but they vanished. Greetings, how is your science project progressing? Did you conquer that seemingly insurmountable challenge at work? The level in your game has not yet been reached. Only quiet, it did not require enough to deduce that Sarah possessed. Likely prohibited them from communicating. The notion of her utilizing the children as the pawns in this absurd conflict constituted my 2 months elapsed, causing my blood to thin. I discarded it. I immersed myself in work and undertook more initiatives. Any distraction to divert my thoughts from the circumstance as Thanksgiving drew near. I was unable to disregard the familial turmoil. Typically, Mother would have called by now. Weeks ago, to arrange dishes and strategizing, however, this year. She likely simply overlooked what I mentioned. Myself, despite the fact that my mother had never. You neglected to extend an invitation to me for Thanksgiving. Throughout my whole adult life, circumstances have been. Everyone was occupied, so I proceeded with my activities. Consistently purchased considerate things for all individuals, including Sarah and the sons. I acquired Tommy the new game console he desired. Have been imploring for, and Jake the costly art materials he required for his portfolio. I even acquired that sophisticated item for Sarah. The coffee maker she had been observing, yet was unable to rationalize purchasing for herself. Loading my vehicle with the gifts I attempted to procure. To maintain a cheerful outlook, they undoubtedly would not permit a tattoo to spoil. This was our family's Thanksgiving. The most significant holiday, occurring once a year. When we united regardless of circumstances. Even 3 years ago, immediately following Mike's, I still attended Thanksgiving dinner. Arrived at my parents' residence with the trunk replete with neatly packaged presents. Recognizable scene of Mother's Thanksgiving. Decorations, including an identical ceramic turkey. She has been possessed throughout my childhood by the autumn season. The pumpkins on the porch adorned with wreaths. Me. Smile, but that smile diminished upon my opening the front entrance of the scene I entered. Perceived as incorrect. Immediately, Sarah, her mother, father, and the boys were all present, however, rather than the customary. There was an unusual turmoil during Thanksgiving. They gazed at me with palpable tension in the atmosphere. As if I were a specter that had suddenly manifested. Tasha's mother's voice in the living room. You possess a certain sharpness, what are you? I stood there with my arms full. Gift bags are becoming increasingly impractical. What do you imply by stating that it is Thanksgiving? Brought gifts for everyone. Mother stated softly that you were not invited. She was conversing with a child, as we imagined. You would comprehend that this indicated your exclusion. The anticipated gifts unexpectedly appeared. As if they were evaluated. 0, 0, 0, 0. Comprehend the rationale behind the reluctance. I have been invited to. During Thanksgiving, Sarah advanced with her arms extended. Upon crossing, I observed the boys. They were not merely looking at me, they were gazing intently. Slumped shoulders on the floor. Sarah stated that your presence is unnecessary. Displaying the tattoo and satisfying my children's heads with increased inappropriateness. Concepts of acceptability. I placed the gifts down with greater force. Then. Are you serious? We are still necessary. It has been months over this matter. It is merely a tattoo, Sarah's voice expressed. Raised 1 octave, it signifies defiance. And disrespect. Oh my God, I ran my fingers through my hair in exasperation. Are you all listening? Uncle Jim possesses a whole sleeve tattoo. Of. Cousin Rachel recently acquired a substantial tattoo. Last month, nobody had a phoenix on her back. Mentioned a word for those fathers who have transitioned. Awkwardly in his armchair, although Mother. Immediately engaged, which is distinct, Tasha. You should have sought our consultation first. Understand our sentiments over these matters. I perceived a decline in my mental stability and sought consultation. I am 30 years old. Why would I require consultation from anyone regarding what I choose to do with my own body? Your family, Sarah, exclaimed, because we have values are influenced by behaviors. The sole repercussions present are those you are producing. Experience a surge of frustration-induced tears. This tattoo holds significant meaning for me. For Mike, it serves as my method of maintaining his presence. In commemoration of his memory, it is when Sarah articulated the phrases that would change Do not commence with that, please. Once more, she defamed him. I have always disdained him. Regardless, consistently exhibiting ostentation with that foolish guitar behaving like an imposter. Rock star traversing that demise. Snare of a. She emitted a loud laugh while on the motorcycle. I am pleased that he was struck by that. Perhaps now you will mature. Begin to behave in a conventional manner. The room revolved around me, rendering me hardly able to function. I inhaled, however, I succeeded in discovering my voice. I apologize for the demand of my words emerging. Initially as a whisper, then increasing. Apologize immediately for what transpired. You just mentioned that Sarah lifted Mike. Her chin. I will not apologize for expressing my opinion. Truthfully, Mom and Dad, I desire her removal from this location. She is causing destruction. During Thanksgiving, I observed my parents. Awaiting their response. Defend me for reprimanding Sarah for her cruelty. Remarks regarding Mike instead of the mother standing up. Adjusting her skirt with trembling hands. Tasha, I believe you should leave, she stated. I silently gazed at them, my father. Averting my gaze from my mother's lips. Compressed into a slender line, Sarah's exultant demeanor and my nephew's. Confused. I silently gathered all the faces, the gift packets I had packed and walked to conduct the drive for the local homeless. The shelter was indistinct, I can scarcely recall it. Presenting the presents to the astonished volunteer at the entrance, these items are all new. I elucidated the game console's mechanical design, which provides the coffee machine with all necessary components. I sat in my dark, uninhabited home. RK spent hours contemplating the monthly utility payments in the living room. I had been heading towards Sarah since her separate Christmas traditions had commenced last year's journey to Hawaii. However, my memory of Tommy's enthusiasm is vivid. When Jake first saw the ocean, he took endless photos of the sunset. Sarah is genuinely relaxed for once. The Europe vacation has already been arranged for this yearly planning to astonish them with it on Christmas morning. Nevertheless, it was not merely the excursions were routine. A shopping excursion for the boys' school, all the additional tutoring for which I incurred expenses, or when Jake encountered difficulties in mathematics during the summer camp fees, and the monthly utility expenses that received payment inexplicably despite Sarah being unemployed, and the cold funds 2 years of meticulous saving, ensuring my nephews would possess alternatives when they graduated from high school. I contemplated what Mike would articulate if he were aware of all this. He would likely take action. A humorous remark regarding karma, followed by a serious discussion. Us and tell me that love ought not to be. Upon opening my laptop on a one-way street, I experienced a sensation. It's uncharacteristically tranquil, the email to Sarah. It virtually composed itself. Sarah, I have experienced this. It is time to reflect on today's events. I have made some decisions that I desire not to convey clarity. I will cease to do so. You will be remitting monthly payments for your utilities, as you perceive me to be such an adverse impact. I am certain you would not. I wish to depend on my finances for the trip to Europe. The Christmas plans I made have been cancelled. At the very least, I will be departing for you and the boys. I had been alone for the previous 2 years. Allocating funds for Tommy and Jake's tertiary education institution. Consider your apprehension regarding my terminating these because of their influence on them. See financial accounts and capital investments in another location. I trust you will elucidate to the guys the rationale. Hi, they will not receive their Christmas gifts. As we are looking forward to sharing this year's surprises. Them due to their aunt's tattoo renders her an unsuitable influence on their Tasha's life. I pressed submit, and instantly I deactivated my phone. My hands were trembling, yet my mind remained lucid for the first time since Mike's passing. I felt as though I was truly advocating for myself, while asserting myself. The following morning, I gazed at my phone for an extended duration. Prior to activating the notification, an inundation commenced. Immediately, 37 were missed. 63 text messages, 22. The initial voicemail I accessed, it was from Sarah. How dare you do this? to my children, you possess no authority to impose punishment. Contact me, because you are upset with them. Me. Back. Subsequently, mother sent texts to Tasha. This behavior is entirely self-serving. We raised you to a higher standard than this. You are allowing a tattoo to undermine this. Is the word from the father more concise? Out. Your sister is equally culpable. Ds. Consider the financial implications for the lads. I perused an array of messages, each requiring responses and clarifications. Apologies, but none of them, not a single one. Lu 1 recognized Sarah's harsh remarks. Ds concerning Mike or expressed remorse for their actions. They administered care to me at Thanksgiving at 2 p.m. Forceful hammering jolted me from my work, in which I had been attempting to immerse myself in programming, accompanied by the sound of Sarah's voice. She smashed me through the door. My Tasha, please open this door immediately. Now. Sarah K's voice resonated across the we need to have a serious discussion regarding the apartment. I overheard my mother interjecting in the conversation. Beloved, please allow us to discuss this matter. I prefer not to engage in conversation with adults, and I called back to you, my voice more steady. Your actions are considered harmful. Please leave. Sarah's voice trembled with tears. Re-exhibiting vindictiveness, consider Tommy, and instead of answering, I donned my noise-canceling headphones and withdrew to my home office, abandoning them to their theatrical performance in the corridor. Ultimately, their voices diminished. The subsequent 2 weeks were very intense. All daily conflict introduced novel endeavors. To undermine my determination, my phone transformed me into a battleground of guilt manipulation, and Auntie Linda referred to it as honey. Family is paramount, it cannot be discarded. Uncle Mark was upset over something trivial. Texted, come on, Tash, just apologize, ND, and rectify this, family must remain united. Uncle Peter attempted next to you, your mother is distraught, is this genuine? Worth sacrificing your family for each upon the word of family. I ceased engagement, I erased the call button and message, but none of them appeared to understand or show concern. I did not cause the destruction. I was not the individual who imposed the family ban.ly, I was not the individual about body art among the members. 1 Who had derided the memory of a deceased individual as the tension escalated as Christmas approached. Escalated daily, presenting fresher efforts to establish contact increasingly more frantic than the previous one. But Sarah elevated it to a new level when she unexpectedly confronted me outside my Tasha at an apartment complex one morning. We must converse, she exclaimed, but rushing towards me through the illumination, I had been contemplating the snow of December. But I should not have made the remarks on Mike. I apologize for ceasing to express those sentiments. Ed readjusted my work bag on my shoulder. The words I had longed to hear for weeks now seem insubstantial, particularly considering the question, are you genuinely remorseful, Sarah, or not? Or are you regretful that I am not compensating you? You are. I am no longer able to pay payments. I apologize for the Europe vacation. The boys' college is closed. I apologize. The money has disappeared from her account. It is unjust to the boy. You ought not to be penalized, because I laughed, although there was no humor in it. It is unjust that you have been blacklisted, preventing me from observing them due to a tattoo you own. You expressed relief at the death of their uncle. Mike, however, now that the funds have unexpectedly vanished. You wish to reconcile with the college. $, she stated, her voice trembling. It cannot solely pertain to their future. Indeed, it was, but as per your assertion, I was a negative influence once that was the case. At Render, my finances are unfavorable as well, it is undesirable. Not my illicit tattoo funds undermining your what futures await the children, as shown in Sarah's expression, see transformed from red to purple, you possess no indeed, I severed ties with her, those are the facts. Are your words, Sarah, your reasoning, if I am so an adverse influence that I cannot embody surrounding the boys, then undoubtedly my funds they would be equally so, I am merely adhering to your guidance. This is distinct, she detonated, this is theirs. Our education is not the cause of this effect. Your one cannot simultaneously possess conflicting options. Yes, either I am a detrimental influence, and all that pertains to me is detrimental. Or I am their affectionate aunt who cherishes them and wishes to assist in selecting one. I turned and entered my building, halting at the I informed the concierge, Jerry, at the front desk, who monitored our building for the past decade. My sister and parents have not been present. No prolonged welcome here, kindly refrain. Don't allow them to ascend to my floor, Christmas has arrived. Me, for the first time in my life, I spent it in solitude, yet not quite alone. I spent it in Paris, followed by Rome, then and I did not publish any images on social media from Barcelona. All media disseminated via familial channels. My parents and Sarah have informed me about their situation, expressing sorrow to everyone willing to hear concerning their self-centered daughter who deserted her family over a mere tattoo. While I was positioned on a bridge in Venice, observing the sunset illuminate the canals in colors of gold and pink, I realized this matter was not related to the tattoo. Oh, perhaps it never was. As about influence over familial dynamics that had been detrimental long before I received that image of Mike on my arm the day I did something upon returning from Europe. I should have completed this 3 years ago. A meeting with Dr. Martinez's therapy office was invitingly warm. Is very inviting, nothing akin to the sterile explain the stereotype I envisioned. Hi, you are present, she remarked, her tone soft. Lou. But I made contact with my tattoo. Ooh, I need to address several matters absent-mindedly. Me primarily, familial matters that require my attention to determine how to release someone I disoriented while retaining his recollection. She nodded, awaiting my response. I continue to love Mike. I speculate, however, I am aware that he would not desire me. Me life, he consistently said, has its roots in the past. It was intended to be experienced audaciously, and for the first time since his demise, I feel as though I am currently performing that while standing. Or make decisions for myself, not only conforming to the consensus desires to gaze upon the tattoo on my enhance the image of Mike with his guitar that has inadvertently ignited this entire during the transition. I recognized something significant. This was not merely a commemoration of Mike. It has transformed into a symbol of my personal resilience and capacity to persevere in my own commitment to embrace life on my own terms. The microphone and the tattoo. Appeared to reciprocate my smile with the guitar. Are always draped across his shoulders, perpetually ensnared in that instant of elation, pursuing his passion, he would perpetually reside in my heart. However, perhaps it was now the appropriate moment to discover what further joys life had prepared me.